And now I'd like to ask Taylor Branch to come to the podium to present the Hubert H. Humphrey Civil and Human Rights Award to the Honorable Eric H. Holder, Jr. Mr. Branch.
Half a century ago, African American children marched bravely into police dogs and fire hoses, protesting the denial of equal citizenship. Now, Americans are taking to the streets once again. We come together across a lingering divide from that crucible era. I was then the teenage son of a white dry cleaner in segregated Atlanta, stupefied by a black-led nonviolent movement that opened stubborn gates of freedom for the whole country. Tonight's honoree was a New York teenager with roots in Barbados, whose future family was being shaped by a dramatic confrontation between Robert Kennedy's Justice Department and Alabama's Governor George Wallace. Justice prevailed, and Wikipedia today drolly notes that the late Vivian Malone endured relatively few hardships as a pioneer black student at Alabama, except for, quote, a spree of campus bombings in November of 1963. Her younger sister Sharon, the distinguished physician here, married to Eric Holder, brings us a human face of Malone experience and courage. Today, as in the 1960s, the great contests for law and democracy make their way to the Department of Justice. For the past 6 years, Eric Holder has been an attorney general in the tradition of Robert Kennedy, who grew into vigorous advocacy for civil rights by immersing himself in the passion and the action of his time. Having served as a U.S. attorney and on the federal bench, Eric has fought for civil rights with a prosecutor's tenacity and a judge's perspective. He was the first African-American Attorney General, serving the first African-American president in a path-breaking administration. His record upholds the patriotic quest for civil and human rights. He spoke plain words to end torture by our government. He championed equality for LGBT citizens, along with the active prosecution of hate crimes, fairness for immigrants, and advancement rather than retreat on the bedrock principle of voting rights. Even his failures have been refreshing in a sense. This Attorney General openly regretted the inability to secure gun safety laws. By honoring Eric Holder today, we also affirm our country's historic commitment to ground freedom in the Constitution's first 3 words, "We the people," carried forward in struggle from generation to generation. Please join me in presenting the Hubert H. Humphrey Civil and Human Rights Award to the Honorable Eric Holder.
Good evening.
Good evening.
And thank you, Taylor, for that very kind and generous introduction. He obviously has done a great deal of research, but we would expect that from Taylor Branch. Also want to thank Wade Henderson for honoring me and inviting me here this evening, and a special person in the organization, Nancy Zerkin, who, along with Wade, were steadfast supporters during some tough times that I had as Attorney General, and I will be forever grateful. It is wonderful to be honored with Senator Dole and Laura Murphy. I've seen both Bambi and Jaws from Laura, so I can attest to the fact that both of those personalities exist. But I also want to really make you all understand that although I've left the Justice Department, it is indeed in good hands. And two of the people who are going to keep this Department of Justice true to its ideals are here with us tonight. We have the new Deputy Attorney General, Sally Yates, confirmed today. And the head of our Civil Rights Division, Vanita Gupta. And we also have here my rock, the lovely Sharon Malone, without whom none of this would be possible. But again, I want to thank Taylor, as I said, for that kind and generous introduction. He has been, I think, a seminal figure in chronicling and analyzing the events that so changed our nation. And thank you, my friends and colleagues in the Civil Rights Coalition, for this really wonderful award. Now, as Taylor indicated, I grew up in the midst of history that he has explained so well, and that included the Civil Rights Act and the Voting Rights Act, had as actors Martin Luther King, John Lewis, and A. Philip Randolph, in addition to John and Robert Kennedy. And I wanted to be reminded of this history every day that I served as Attorney General. And that is why I had hung the portraits of Robert Kennedy in my conference room and Nicholas Katzenbach in my private office in the Justice Department. For I didn't just read about the struggle for civil rights, my family lived it. My late sister-in-law, Vivian Malone, was accompanied by then Deputy Attorney General Katzenbach on the day that she forced her way past Governor George Wallace to integrate the University of Alabama in 1963. My father was born in Barbados, and like so many immigrants, he loved this country. He served proudly in World War II, but like so many others, he suffered an unacknowledged discrimination even while wearing our country's uniform during the Second World War. He and my mother, also a child of Bajan immigrants, taught me, and Vivian's example showed me that as great as our country is, we all have an obligation and we have the ability to make it better. Now, I was fortunate to find my professional calling in the law and my professional home at the Department of Justice. Joining DOJ as a newly minted lawyer in 1976 and continuing until very recently, I have been a part of an institution that, at its best, strives to make our exceptional nation more just. The history of our Department of Justice shows that it is not perfect. Like the nation it serves, the department has made its share of mistakes. But at its best, the women and men at justice strive to make right that which is wrong, to include an ever-widening circle of people in the promise of our country's founding ideals, and in each case and policy, determination to pursue peace. Now, over the past 6 years, I've been proud to be a part of a Department of Justice that I believe history will find to be among our nation's finest. Now, though this era has been marred by oftentimes senseless and partisan inactivity, this Justice Department has been unafraid to act. We helped to enact the fair We helped to enact the Fair Sentencing Act with the support of a bipartisan coalition and Laura Murphy. We defended every American's right to vote wherever it was under attack. We challenged discriminatory state immigration laws. We reformed criminal justice policies that led to a decline in our overall crime rate and incarceration rates for the first time in 40 years. We prosecuted a record number of human trafficking and hate crimes cases, and we stood for marriage equality by refusing to defend the misnamed Defense of Marriage Act and by making real the promise of the Windsor decision. If you've got a Justice Department that you think's done better, show me. Though our progress has been real and has been historically consequential, as we commemorated the 50th anniversary of Bloody Sunday and the Selma to Montgomery March earlier this year, I was struck by the fact that we are still fighting to secure and to protect the most fundamental of our rights, the right that so many struggled and sacrificed to obtain. And that was a central part of the movement that Taylor Branch has so eloquently and insightfully documented, the right to vote. Now, this unfortunate and contemporary reality is a powerful reminder that there are no permanent victories, only enduring values, continuing struggles, and the need for steady progress towards our goal of a more perfect union. Now, I am proud to have served in the historic administration of President Barack Obama. Proud of the accomplishments of the women and men of the Department of Justice, whom I had the great pleasure to lead over the last 6 years. Proud and truly grateful to have worked with so many of you in this room tonight. And finally, proud to accept this award in the name of one of my heroes, Hubert Humphrey, who anticipated that with sustained effort, America would step forward into, as he said, the bright sunshine of human rights. To honor him and all those others to whom we owe so much, we must rededicate and recommit ourselves to that ongoing effort. I want to thank you all so much for this truly humbling honor.